You're listening to Inside Content, the TV industry podcast. This show is brought to you by 3Vision, a global TV industry consultancy specialising in content acquisition, strategy, research and business development. Each episode, we give you VIP access to the views and experiences of senior TV executives and discuss the latest TV industry trends and insights.
I'm Hayley Bull, VP at 3Vision, and on this episode I'm joined by two guests from Samsung TV Plus, Pauline Coghlan, European Licensing Lead, and Benedikt Frey, Country Lead for the DACH region. We explore their content strategy, including how they're making their content decisions, the type of relationships they have with distributors, and what content is working best. We also dive into what's needed for FAST to grow in Europe and how broadcasters are entering the game. Benny and Pauline, very pleased to have you join us on Inside Content. There's a huge amount of interest at the moment in what Samsung are doing from across the industry, and especially in the run-up to MIPCOM. So we're grateful to have you join us and share some of your insights with us and our listeners. I'm aware kind of Samsung's activities are varied and fast, so I thought it would be helpful if we could hear from you both, first of all, on your roles within the company and specifically get a short overview on what Samsung are doing with your TV product, Samsung TV Plus.
Absolutely. Hi, Hayley. Thank you for inviting me to the podcast today. So I'm Pauline. I'm the European Licensing Lead at Samsung. So I oversee the strategy and content acquisition for Samsung's owned and operated channels across Europe, which incorporates 16 countries. Just for a little bit of background, I joined Samsung 4 years ago. So at the beginning of the TV Plus ramp up and EU expansion. So the evolution of the service has been incredible to witness firsthand. For those that may not know, Samsung TV Plus is Samsung's free ad-supported streaming video service. It's available on all Samsung devices, including smart TVs from 2016 to current. And it's also available on tablets and mobiles. No login, subscription, additional device or credit card needed. And currently we have around 2,000 plus channels globally on 500 million devices globally.
Wow, thank you, Pauline. That's great. And Bene, thank you for joining us too.
Yeah, hi, I'm Bene. Thanks for the invitation. I'm the country lead for the DACH region, or GSA, however you want to see it. I'm overseeing the strategy of the DACH region, so Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and we are further ramping up our channels in these countries to get more premium content on board, mainly with third-party channels. But also with all these owned and operated initiatives, P is heading, Pauline is heading, yeah, that's pretty much what we are doing at the moment. And the fast market is evolving very fast. And yeah, from my personal experience, I've been in the broadcasting business before I joined Samsung 3 years ago. So therefore, that's pretty good for me to understand all the different angles and views.
Great, thank you. And I think we're going to briefly talk about kind of broadcaster activity in FAST later in the session. So you'll be great to talk to about that. But let's start with kind of content strategy. Tracking some of your activity with TV Plus, we can see that there are multiple ways that you're working with content providers, from third-party channel acquisition to licensing deals for owned and operated, which you look after, Pauline. Could you talk to some of the ways that you are collaborating with content owners, Pauline?
Sure. So from an O&O perspective or licensing point of view, we work with content partners that need to deliver in accordance with our own internal content strategy. We seek premium content that's recognizable with a recognizable cast. So no surprises there. We also seek content that will resonate with the viewer in each country. And as a content provider, if you only have a small library of content, we can still license your content to be scheduled into one of our compilation channels. So that's one of the key differences. You don't have to have a vast library of content to work with Samsung. Additionally, on the licensing side, we will do the heavy lifting for our partners. So from curation through to scheduling, incorporation of the ad furniture. So it's a real end-to-end process. And Samsung will do all of that on behalf of the partners that we work with.
Great. So there are multiple points of entrance to work with Samsung as a content provider. You can take their content and use that in your owned and operated channel, or you could take a third party channel. I've noticed a couple of interesting collaborations that we have termed partnership channels. I think, Benny, there's one with ZDF Studios in Germany. Kind of how do they work? That's, I assume, a relationship with one particular provider, but it's a collaboration on that channel.
Yeah, clearly, collaboration, very close partnership, specifically with this partner. But I can tell you a little bit more about this later on. Let me quickly turn what Pauline just described from her angle, from the owned and operated angle, into what I am doing. So the difference is, like I said at the very beginning, O&O and third party. So the country leads are responsible for the third party channels, and there we are trying to get also the biggest brands, the biggest broadcasters, the well-known brands, the single IPs out there, and all these recognizable brands we all know from classical broadcast, but also from the big streaming brands on the one hand, but also the big studios. So those channels are then different from the owned and operated channels. We get 24/7 feeds from the partners. So this is a ready channel to be inserted in our tech environment, and then we just play it out on our platform. And also rebroadcast is one topic. That's when we just use the classical 24/7 linear channels and put them into our TV Plus environment.
Great. In getting involved in licensing content and managing channels versus letting someone else just give you the feed and just taking a share of the revenue or inventory as you would with a third party is kind of a whole different ball game, and is kind of arguably new territory for Samsung. Are you likely to increase your strategy kind of in terms of the volumes of O&Os that you have? How do you see that evolving as part of your kind of overall strategy, Pauline?
So, so just to outline, as of today, we have over 40 channels across Europe that we either schedule or license content for. Content can be licensed on an exclusive basis, so that will usually tick the premium box for us. Recent examples of channels only available on Samsung are compilation channels that I alluded to earlier. So, for example, in Spain, we have Todo Crimen, which is a true crime and scripted crime channel. In Germany, we have Comedy Mix, which is a scripted comedy channel and stand-up. And then in the UK, we have channels like the Jamie Oliver channel, which is a channel collaboration with over 20 years worth of programming from Jamie Oliver's back catalogue. So all of Jamie Oliver's content is in one place, all you can eat, for want of a better expression. And then we also have things like America's Got Talent and American Idol, which historically were only available on Netflix. So there's been lots of step change in what we've been doing in licensing over the last few years. So in 2024, we want to build on those successes, continue to look at what's working, what needs improving to raise the channel bar further. So for us, it's not simply about adding more channels, but it's about improving and strengthening our existing portfolio of compilation and single IP channels. I don't think it's about necessarily volume and adding more and more channels. Additionally, we have a soft ceiling, and that's across the whole of Europe. We have a soft ceiling of a certain number of channels per market, to avoid overwhelming audiences and ensure the content is also still easy to navigate through.
And what content is working well? Can you speak to that, whether it's kind of on a territory basis or a genre basis? Because I can imagine that because of the reach of Samsung and the success of the platform, you are inundated by requests from content owners and distributors to talk to you about what you could potentially do together. So there's two parts to this question: kind of what content is working well, and how do you decide kind of what content distributors and owners that you want to review and want to work with?
Yeah, very good question. Let me take the first part of the question, then I hand over to Pauline for what content we are taking. So what's working well across EU5 or across the board in Europe? We can say that mainstream contents are working very well, like news, movie series. Pauline mentioned before, cooking channels, sport channels, and also kids channels are working very well. So these are the ones which work well. We see also single IP channels working very well. Like in Germany, for example, we have the Baywatch channel. Also in some other territories we have it. But also the ZDF Studios Terra X channel we are having in Germany works very well. Furthermore, we have also some call it niche contents, which work very well. Just to point out some examples from the DACH region. So we have the first fully localized Bollywood channel live since a month, and it's working extremely well together with C1. And furthermore, we have opened up a complete new genre on TV Plus in Germany. We had it already in France with one channel, but now we opened up a complete new genre in Germany for the anime genre, which is working very well. And we will continue to do the next steps in all these genres. So, Pauline, what about the content we want to acquire?
Yeah, so I think from my perspective, we would firstly we look at the current proposition across Europe, what's working well, and we also can tune into complete data set across 24 countries globally to help inform our decisions on what to acquire. It's really a rich source of data for us, very valuable and able to maximize our efforts across acquisitions, editorial, even the scheduling of the channel, and also marketing. So we're looking at varying programming types and genres, which will keep the fast audiences engaged and drawn in. And we can also we look at testing and featuring genre strands on our entertainment channels in the UK and Germany. So in the UK, one of our flagship O&O channels is Entertainment Hub. And in Germany, we have our flagship entertainment channel, which is called Entertainment Mix. So that's another great test for us, in able to really test what works well and expand out on those genres where needed. But it's all of the genres you'd expect that does well: entertainment and crime, cooking, and things like that. So we really are testing before we expand those efforts.
Fantastic. I imagine there's many in the industry who are very envious of that data set that you guys have access to, and would love to get our hands on it to have a look at it. But you mentioned, Bene, single IP channels are good performers. Do you think the reason for that is as simple as kind of signposting? So from a discoverability perspective and marketing, it's very clear when you go onto the guide for a audience member to understand what that channel is and click on it. Do you think it's as simple as
Yeah,
that?
I think so. It's that simple. We also recommend all our content partners who are not doing single IP channels that they be as simple and direct when it comes to the channel name. and channel branding. Because obviously EPG is one of the major entry points for our service. So therefore, anything which is simple and clear from a branding perspective works pretty well.
Great, and we'll talk about performance of content in a little bit, but just to wrap up this section on kind of content strategy, um, sports content kind of often cited as being kind of the most important content in terms of customer acquisition, and I see that you have many relationships in this regard, and actually in the last few days, a couple of new ones have been announced. I see you've extended your relationship with DAZN, and also PGA. Do you see, Bene, that this is an area that you're going to continue to push on with? It obviously sounds like it's been working because you've extended these partnerships.
Yeah, to give you a pretty straight answer, yes, we will further expand in this genre, and it is a very important one. We see this in all our countries where we have premium sports live, and it also works very well. But just to give you a couple of examples, what we are doing already and what we are having on a pan-Euro level already live, and not only live within the service, but also live in terms of live sports, which is always the differentiator, right? So as you said, PGA, we just launched them. We have La Liga, we just launched them in Spain, like the Spanish league and their own fast proposition. We have already since a couple of years live the tennis channel, including a lot of live content from different tournaments. We have on a pan-Euro level, we have also motorsports channels live with live races in different areas. We have FIFA Plus live since the last World Cup, Women's World Cup, which works also very well across the board. And we have done the overarching, let's say, the zone partnerships, but because just from a pure channel amount on a pan-Euro level, that's the biggest partner at the moment. So we have different DAZN channels in different countries in Europe. We have DAZN women channels. So in Germany, that's called DAZN Rise with the UEFA Champions League, Women's UEFA Champions League live on our service, which is a really buzzing sport and movement at the moment, which is good for us and good for the different leagues. And then we have, let's say, our highlight channel, which we launched last year in December. That's the Zone Fast Plus, exclusively in Germany and Austria, where we have live football games from the Spanish league every weekend, the French league and the Italian league, and always only the top games. So we don't have like the last two playing against each other, but more like the Barcelonas, the Real Madrids, and the PSGs playing against each other on our service live. Plus the UEFA Champions League show, which we have on Monday exclusively and shot in a specific studio, a TV Plus studio by DAZN, and on Friday with all the highlights of the Champions League match days with all goals and interviews. So yeah, it's pretty amazing. Just looking into sports, what's happening, and I'm pretty sure that there's so much more coming around.
It's an extensive offer, and I think the important point is that there's a lot of live content in there. This isn't just kind of archive library shows. There's live sports there. Super interesting. I want to talk a bit about kind of localization, as I have two European specialists on the pod with me. Like with much of our industry, the video landscape is very different outside of the US, and with FAST, this is no exception. In Europe, they're kind of distinct market characteristics, meaning that the FAST market is developing very differently and presenting some unique challenges and opportunities. In Europe, we have a strong free TV offer, meaning that kind of often local TV dominates and lots of popular content is only available via those free TV services. We have multiple languages, presenting challenges with localization for distributors, with subtitling and dubbing. What do you think, Pauline, needs to happen to make the EU grow fast? I was trying to avoid using that pun, but I just couldn't think on my feet for a better word. What do you think needs to happen to make it grow at the same rate as the US, or are we not likely to see that?
I mean, I think you've summarised it actually quite perfectly in your question, because to your point, historically the US has been a predominant pay TV market, so adoption has been much quicker. Also, one main language, so there are already two huge hurdles, because Europe is obviously multiple language, also many strong free-to-air markets within Europe. So it's, the fast proposition in Europe needs to stand out to gain traction, and to your point, grow faster. So I think it's vital for fast services to grow, or to try and catch up. I don't know if we will ever catch up, but to grow, I think, content has to be acquired to resonate with local audiences. So whether from a licensing perspective, we license content that is in local language, or it's dubbed or subbed, all of our O&O channels will resonate with local audiences, and they have, all channels are localized. So we are starting to see, there will always be constant growth, which makes sense because TV Plus is pre-installed on all devices, and everybody who buys a new TV buys a smart TV. So our potential reach continues to grow, and we see adoption increasing in terms of our monthly active users. So there will always be growth there.
Interesting. And Bene, we alluded earlier to the importance of free TV in Europe, and you come from one of the kind of main German broadcasters. Are we likely to see, and I know we already are seeing in certain territories like Spain, the free TV broadcasters coming on board? Can you speak to that? What's your kind of hypotheses with how that might progress in the EU?
Yeah, overall, I think we can already see it on a pan-Euro level that this is happening. So that's not a secret. We have already La Sette in Italy live. We have RTVE in Spain live. We have BBC and ITV in different territories live with their different propositions already since a long time, actually, just looking at the BBC channels. And in Germany, we have this partnership with ZDF Studios, and they have access to the ZDF content. So therefore, with Terra X at the moment, we have a very, very popular and a well-known brand live on the service. But on the other hand, I mean, as I have worked for a broadcaster, I can say that they have maybe different strategies, and therefore the fast track is at different speeds when it comes to the different broadcasters. They have their own BVOD services. In Germany, we call them Mediatheken. ProSieben has Join. RTL has RTL Plus. Just looking at the German market, so therefore. It's a difficult situation, I think, for everybody from a broadcaster point of view. But at the end of the day, I think more and more will move into fast, because the majority of the audience are no longer spending a lot of time in linear environments and prefer streaming. So the distribution strategy of any content provider needs to be needs to account this into their strategy. Yeah. So overall, I think this will happen, and as we can see in different markets in Europe, it is already happening. And I mean, just to add one more thing, I mentioned this a couple of times before already, but the incremental reach and incremental revenues broadcasters can drive through fast are really there and pretty high. So therefore, I can only recommend it because we see it in different data sets that the main trigger for broadcasters is the incremental piece of it.
Yeah, I think that's key, isn't it? Because kind of common experiences when working with free TV broadcasters, and I'm talking about their flagship channels here. So I'm talking about the kind of their main channels rather than different iterations of their feeds, has always been about concerns over fragmenting viewers from traditional TV services and the impact that can have on advertising and kind of general viewing. But it seems that you're putting a good case together that this is the way that viewing is going, and therefore you really want to be on board and taking advantage of that, as opposed to staying clear and having concerns about it. But it's very complex,
Yeah.
as you pointed out. Great. Let's talk a little bit about performance. Obviously, fast revenues are ultimately driven through eyeballs, and kind of a common agitation from content owners is the lack of data to support them with things like making amendments to schedules or understanding what's working and what's not. Benny, how are you helping content owners improve their offering on Samsung?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm in constant contact with any of my partners, and I'm assuming, or I know that all my pan-Euro colleagues do the same. So therefore, we always try to educate them and learn from them on the other hand. So therefore, this is happening constantly. Overall, we for the partner channels, for the third-party channels, we provide our partners with viewership data, such as monthly active users, average viewing time, etc. So I think this helps them pretty much to make the most out of the partnership with us.
And one of the challenges that I imagine Samsung have is that you are a smart TV provider and you have multiple services available on that smart TV, not just Samsung TV Plus. You have other AVOD and FAST services. Who are all competing for attention. How do you manage promotion of Samsung TV Plus versus kind of making the other services available on your platform?
Yeah, very good question, Hayley. And yeah, you're right. We have one or two other services, SWOT, AWOT, whatever, on our platform. So therefore, it's a tricky one. But overall, as a device manufacturer, we are always putting the users in the center of our strategy. So our concern is, first of all, to make our users happy, right? And that the users want to access all the content that they want, and they want to find it easily. So we touched that before when it comes to the EPG, but there are also different other interfaces in our environment. So therefore, all this Tyson platform, how it is called, our operating system, is made to find whatever you want to watch in an easy way, and therefore we also have different banner options to promote apps, to promote TV Plus, for example, the new Masthead, which is a big banner on the newer devices, and that's working very well for all of the partners, right? I mean, not only for the TV Plus channels. Obviously, sometimes we are also getting this space for the TV Plus channels, but also for any other partners out there.
Yeah, and it's there's lots of advantages and disadvantages to the different types of fast platforms that we're seeing in the market. But of course, the key the key benefit to Samsung is obviously you own the device and you control the positioning and therefore the promotion. So you're in a strong position when it comes to discoverability, which I'm sure is kind of really attractive to many content owners that want to work with you. Um, Super. I'd like to talk about the future, do some future gazing here, Pauline. You mentioned looking at 2024 that it's not necessarily about increasing volume, but it's looking carefully at what's working and expanding on some of those relationships. What's next for Samsung?
Yes. So yeah, as you allude to, Hayley, I think it is definitely more about looking at what works well for us now, not necessarily add in more and more channels. So, we'll look at the curation of premium content on our O&Os, and we're expecting continued growth in adoption of our fast services across Europe. We have some very exciting channels launching around the same time this podcast goes live. Fingers crossed. So we'll have 2 festive movie channels. Festive Hub will return to the UK. That worked really well for us last year. And we'll also expand that out into Germany, Austria, and Switzerland as well. That will be called Christmas Mix. So that's going to resonate with both viewers and advertisers. Obviously, it's a key quarter for our advertisers. And then further afield in Q4, we have another big launch coming up in the UK. Can't say much more than that, but I am very excited to see this channel launching in the UK. So stay tuned. So that's all very exciting. And then we're still very much in planning phase for 24. So hopefully we can share more with you in 2024.
Fantastic. And Benedikt?
Yeah. First of all, I think in any launch window, in any release, we have pretty amazing channels launching, be it third-party channels or owned and operated channels. So therefore, that's exactly the quality we are aiming for, what we do at the moment and what we are launching. But I'm especially proud in terms of strategic partnerships with bigger partners, and therefore we will further develop and make the partnership with ZDF Studios even bigger than we have it now. So therefore, when this podcast airs next week, we hopefully have also a couple of new ZDF Studios channels up and running for the German market with big brands they all know from classical linear TV.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for teasing us with some of those upcoming releases. We'll be watching closely as they get formally announced. Well, have a great week at MIPCOM, guys, and thank you again for sharing with us some of your insights and strategy behind Samsung's TV Plus activity. It's a fascinating space to watch, and I think we're all kind of interested by how quickly this space is evolving and moving, and Samsung are a real key player in this activity. And I hope you'll join us again soon on Inside Content, and we can have a catch up.
Thank you, Hayley, for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Inside Content, the TV industry podcast brought to you by 3Vision. With decades of TV industry experience and real-world success, we know the ins and outs of the market like nobody else. To learn more about our TV consultancy services, head to 3vision.tv.